Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with authentic, heart centered experts about interesting topics to spark and inspire and motivate personal and professional change. And today, this conversation is worth your while if you want more, and you might even have a vision of what you want, but the weight and the demands of your commitments or responsibilities have you at maximum capacity. And now you've come to a point where you're no longer willing to sacrifice either your professional potential or your personal commitments. Well, what if I told you that working harder isn't the answer to more influence, more income, and more impact, and that you can have it all without overwhelming yourself? And in fact, you can get paid what you deserve for your natural genius. So if that is intriguing to you, buckle in because you are going to love today's conversation. I'm Linda Bucher. I am a speaker and a master certified life coach. And I was living the life of a chameleon, feeling like a victim and feeling very overwhelmed for like 45 years until I finally discovered who I am and connected with my passion and purpose, and then reinvented my life to align with my true self. So, you know what happens when you do that? You become happier, more confident, and more fulfilled. But most importantly, this transformation helped me to be able to confidently unleash my gifts into the world. And now it's my honor and privilege to help you do the exact same thing. So you want to head over to lindabucher.com, and there's all sorts of great stuff there for you that will help you to know your worth, become clear on your purpose, harness your gifts and own your power, align all that energy and direction, and free yourself from the obstacles that want to hold you back. So head on over there, lindabucher.com. And I'm going to get going today with my guest. I have the pleasure of being joined by Amy Kemp. She's the owner and CEO of Amy Kemp Inc. And Amy is making big, beautiful ripples in a very unique way. She helps people to achieve their potential in income and in impact without having to work harder. Like, what? So, Amy, thank you so much for being with us today.
I love it. As you were reading, I was like, I would like that. I want that. I
All
want
right.
that. So thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
You're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and who you serve?
Of course. Um, Amy Kemp, I live just south of Chicago, and I accidentally started the most amazing business about 8 years ago. I sort of fell into it, though looking back, I realize now that it's work I've been doing for probably my entire life, but for sure professionally for about 25 years. So I use an assessment tool called the Habit Finder and a corresponding curriculum to help my clients in one-on-one and small group settings really identify and replace habits of thinking that are no longer serving them, these subconscious grooves in our brain that we don't even realize are happening, but really impact so many areas of our work and our lives. So this work has been really fun and really unexpectedly gratifying and just abundant. I'm grateful.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, it's awesome that you're here with me today. And let's talk a little bit about our topic, getting paid for what you deserve for your natural genius. So, but let's start with, this overwhelm piece. So, I'm sure you have a story which I would love you to share about, where you are maybe at a point where your clients are, where you're like, I can't work any harder. But I know I'm here for something more. I have a story too. So I'd love if you'd share that with us.
Sure. Uh, Probably one of the most pivotal moments in this journey came at a meeting that my husband and I had with our financial advisor. She is a deeply trusted mentor, someone I respect and listen to. And we had prepared, well, I had prepared all of the forms about our finances. So, where we were on all of our investments, just our goals for retirement, our children, all of the financial pieces of our lives. So I sent that over to her in advance. We went to the meeting, and I remember what I was wearing. I remember the burgundy burlap chairs upon which I was sitting. I remember the sound of the air conditioning. I remember so vividly this moment. And she had these forms in front of her, and she said, I've reviewed everything, and you're actually very organized, you're not overspending, you're doing a great job managing the money that you have. There's just one problem if you want to achieve the goals that you filled out in this form. And she leaned forward on the pile of papers that were on her desk and she said, "You're not making enough money." And I don't remember anything else that was said for the rest of the meeting. I know she was talking, I probably was answering, but it became really evident very quickly as I surveyed the room that my husband, who's in education, doing what he was created to do and doing a great job, could only earn more money by getting older. And that wasn't very much, even at that point, right? And there was no one else in the room who could address this issue. At the same time, publicly, I was sort of on the top of the mountain in my professional endeavors. I was very well known, leading a really large team, and had sort of this image of success that was sort of being portrayed to the world. And so I knew that some things had to change. Our kids also at that age were kind of, I call it the Uber era of parenting, where no one has a driver's license, but everyone is in things. And there was no more time. I was working full-time hours, and with my commitments to them, that things that I wasn't willing to miss, there was no more time available in my schedule for me to work more hours.
Right.
And yet I was not willing to give up on those goals. It was untenable to me to think that we would not achieve those goals. And so I knew something had to change. And that something really was me. I really had to change me.
Yeah, yeah, that is the answer. My story is just a little bit different. I had climbed the corporate ladder, um, and on paper everything looked good. I had a pretty decent retirement. My husband had passed away and he had stock options, so we got those, and so I had enough put away to send the kids to college, and and, I was respected and whatever, but I was gapingly unfulfilled. And then I started having like physical stress because of it. And so I knew I was here for something more, and I knew that what I was doing at work was it's all of a sudden it was seemed so unimportant and insignificant in the world. Like I'm, there's something more for me, and then the big aha was like, oh, I'm meant for something more, right? So it's not just like I need a better life, I want to be fulfilled, but then, oh my God, I've been given some gifts that are supposed to get out into the world, and then that felt like a big responsibility. And so then, I quit my six-figure year job to go back to school to become a life coach. And my very first year, I made like $1,200. And I was like, wait a minute, I just went from like making all this to making nothing. And, I have a master's degree in business. I thought this was going to be like easy, but there was a lot of different nuances, and a lot of it came down to money stories. So I think maybe we should kind of touch on that a little, because I know that's part of something you do. I know that actually in the book that you wrote, you actually have a chapter about that. So let's talk a little bit about this whole, like, because it's really you and I recognize. So when I say stories, and probably our listeners are understanding too, that we're meaning how we think about money, right? We all know people who have these, like, we've all been told money doesn't grow on trees, blah, blah, blah. Like, you've been told these things and you take them in. So then we have our thoughts about money, and they really run how we show up and what happens. So I'd love if you'd share your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's two components to this. One is that a lot of times my clients don't recognize their areas of natural genius because those things feel so easy to them. The question is, what do you do that astonishes everyone else, but feels so easy to you?
Yeah.
And then are you harnessing those areas of natural genius to bring in quantities of income for your family that are in alignment with the value of that natural genius? Because there is this, it's so easy So how could I charge someone for it? Narrative, which is a story, right? That we tell
Right.
ourselves that because it feels easy to me, it doesn't have value. When in fact, almost always our areas of natural genius feel easy to us. So as an example, growing up, I remember I created a clubhouse in our neighborhood, and you had to put a piece of chewed gum on the tree to get in. That was your entry fee. And then I would facilitate a conversation, a small group conversation with all the neighborhood kids about how we can make our neighborhood a better place. We'd sit in a circle and I would lead the conversation, which is really funny to think about. But I didn't know that facilitating conversations of small groups of people was really valuable because to me, I've done it my whole life. If I go out to eat, I do it. If I go anywhere I go, I'm basically doing that without even knowing I'm doing it because it's so easy for me to do. Well, in my business, that's one of the things that I do is facilitate conversations in small group settings, right? I just didn't know that you could charge people for that. It was so rare and so valuable that not everyone can do that. There's a statement. It says it's from the book The Greatest Salesman in the World. It says, "You are rare, and there is value in all rarity. Therefore, you are valuable."
I
So if
love
you have
that.
a gift, something that you do that's rare, there's value in all rarity, and so it is valuable. I also think that we get really wigged out in the money world when you're putting a price tag sort of on yourself, which is kind of what you're doing as an entrepreneur, or especially in a more service focused realm where you are the product in some ways. That's when you really, if you really want to know all of the subconscious habits of thinking that are holding you back, just move from a traditional job to an entrepreneurial role where you're charging fees for you. You will get to encounter them like a beach ball that's been submerged will come raging to the surface instantly. It's just an opportunity to really understand what's happening below the surface,
Yeah,
which it
completely. And
sounds like that's what you encountered in the transition.
exactly. I thought what I was selling me or I was selling coaching. Not
Mhm.
even close. What I was doing is facilitating or providing the people with a pathway, with a way to live to their potential, become who they are, to live in alignment with that, to discover their purpose, their like all of that. And when you get there, that is priceless. And so then what I needed to do to first I had to shift my own mindset. I'm like, I'm not selling me, I'm not selling coaching, not at all. That has nothing to do with why they're here or what they're getting. And what they're getting is actually so priceless. There's probably no price I couldn't charge. And there are many coaches out there that charge $75,000 for something I might charge $5,000 for, because I love what you said earlier. It has to be in alignment with your own values. And my own values are not to charge $75,000 for something that I'm totally cool with doing for 5,000. But I was just speaking with a coach friend of mine the other day, and what I charge 5,000 for, she charges 500 for. And I'm like, you are so undervaluing what you're providing. It's not about you, it's what you're providing. Do not undervalue that. That what you're providing is so important and so priceless to people. And so that's a very big mindset shift that I didn't even recognize I needed to have until, like you said, until I became an entrepreneur and realizing, wait, what am I selling? And I'm not actually selling a damn thing. I don't sell. That I help people who want it. I help them get it. That's it, and
Yeah.
it's my privilege and honor to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think money, in a lot of ways, is just a really effective mirror that allows us to understand ourselves better. We get to observe ourselves in a really tangible, concrete way in our interactions with it. So I love to use it as a tool. Um, to really discover other things that are holding us back. We just had a conversation with a client in the last couple of weeks who had co-signed on a loan with someone. The loan was for that other person, and then that other person didn't pay it back. And so we got to have a lot of conversation around that. And what it turns out is what was revealed through it had nothing to do with the money. It was an inability to create a boundary there, or needing to please or say yes, or maybe just even a little ignorance of like just not knowing what you're getting yourself into,
Mhm.
but now getting to practice radical acceptance, responsibility for no one forced you to sign the papers either. On the other hand, who hasn't made a financial mistake?
Right. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
no one that I know. And I mean, I made one 2 months ago. I don't know anyone who isn't. What I know is the people who apply harsh judgment to themselves because of those mistakes, and who feel anger and frustration and resentment and who wallow in it, have less progress financially than people who just say, well, learned a lesson, moving on.
Yeah,
And who
totally.
don't apply all of this self-condemnation and meaning to it that it doesn't deserve, but they just sort of keep it separate and out there. And it's something that you're learning and watching. And like I said, I made a bad choice. Well, okay, learn from it, not do it again.
Yeah.
So there's this opportunity that money gives us. And when you are more separate from it in terms of it representing your value or having judgment about it, it tends to move toward you and around you in larger quantities.
I love that. Yeah, it's really about allowing. You have to allow it, and you can't allow it when you're fighting it.
No.
Yeah.
And
So,
it responds to energy for certain, right? It responds to certain kinds of energy. It flees from anger, frustration, resentment, judgment, and it moves toward openness, allowing peace, safety,
right.
security. It moves toward those feelings.
Yeah. And it moves towards a feeling big of abundance. When you already feel abundant in all sorts of other areas of your life, the money moves towards that abundance because it's just another vehicle of abundance.
Yeah.
So,
And we're saying, I will feel fill in the blank, happy, safe, secure when I have,
yeah.
right? Fill in the blank with some arbitrary number. Because for some people, it might be 500. For some, it might be 500 million. I don't know. But instead of just saying, I am safe and secure, I am here fully present for today, and letting money move toward you, and
Hmm.
not giving your power away to money to make you feel a certain way or to allow you to feel a certain way, but really owning that power yourself, and then letting
Right.
money move to you and through
Right.
you without attachment or judgment.
Yeah, and it's hard because we've been given these money stories by our parents and through what we see on MTV Cribs or whatever, and what it means. And we really need to detach our ego and our self-worth from this. It's just currency. That's it. I mean, it used to be beans for chickens. When did we start attaching it to us being worthy or worth something, and using money to prove our worth because we don't know it ourselves, right? That's one of the main things I'm doing with people's helping them to repair their sense of worthiness because it got messed up somehow, and then they started attaching all the stuff to it. We have to sever those ties. How much you make, or what your title is, or how much job responsibility you have, or none of that has anything to do with your worthiness, none whatsoever. And so if you don't know you're worthy and you're trying to prove it and you're in the striving mode, you're also in the wrong energy for attracting money and attracting abundance and attracting freedom and attracting joy and attracting happiness. And you're in the wrong place. So that's a fundamental thing that we've got to do. So
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. In the interest of time,
Mhm.
if there was one thing that you can tell people to say, like around getting paid what you deserve for your
Mhm.
natural genius, and thank you. I love that you actually described natural genius and what that is. Now people are like, oh, wait a minute, I can monetize that. What? How? What would you say?
Mm. I think that I would want people to do a little bit of an exploration or a study, even asking people around you. Often we can't see it ourselves, But just ask the people around you who you've worked with or who see you on a day-to-day basis what it is that you do that is unique and valuable to the world, what contribution you're making, and sort of just sit in the observer's chair and watch yourself. And then I also might just say, without that striving, I have to figure out how energy. Open yourself to the idea that an opportunity might show up for you to use that natural genius in a way that pays you more money than you ever imagined earning to do something that you love and that does feel easy to you. So, again, it's not the seeking the how, lighten up on how. The hows tend to show up when we're in alignment with the energy, but it's just the openness that perhaps there's something that is going to show up that will allow you to use that natural genius in a real way. So,
I love that. Really, yeah. It's this openness, this allowing again. We're talking about allowing, you know, it's going to come to you now that you know your natural genius. Just keep your antenna up. That's it.
yeah.
So, oh, thank you so much, Amy. You've been a
Mm.
really great guest today, and I'm excited that you were here, and I'm excited for what is going to open up in our listeners today. So, maybe you have something you want to share with our audience, and then I'll put in the show notes exactly how to get it. Can you tell us about that?
Of course. Just as a free offering for anyone who's interested in understanding what some of the subconscious habits of thinking might be that are holding them back, there is a link to take the Habit Finder assessment for free. You do get all the results right away. You don't have to wait for them or anything. But it's sort of like if you could unzip your head and just see the areas of risk where your brain is tending to fall into certain habits of thinking. It's such a fascinating tool and something that's available definitely on my website, amykemp.com. And then, of course, we'll give you the link directly there.
Okay, that is awesome. I will put that in the show notes for everybody. So I just want to say thank you one more time for being a guest in Conversations Worth Your While. And once again, I'm Linda Bucher, a speaker and a master certified life coach, and I will help you to get unstuck, get to the next level, and get the most out of life. And the first way to start that is I got this fun little 7-question quiz that you can take on my website to find your adventure archetype and get tips for navigating life and to unlock your potential and find your best path forward. 7 fun little questions, little quiz, totally free. And you can get that at lindabucher.com. And so that is our show, everybody. And please come back next week for another topic for lifelong learners that will help you grow. And be sure to subscribe and don't forget to, like this if you like it. And until next time, please make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.